For the headlines, a federal judge in Seattle says Mexican dreamer Daniel Ramirez Medina should get a bail hearing. Rights activists form human chains near the U.S.-Mexico border to protest President Trump. U.S. President Donald Trump reads from a statute that he says defends his immigration travel ban. U.S. Vice President Mike Pence meets with U2 frontman Bono in Munich, Germany. Plus, Iglesia Ni Cristo, global in reach, helps a New York Bronx neighborhood. You're watching Eagle News Washington, D.C., broadcasting from the United States Capitol, bringing you stories from around the nation. I am Eliza Gonzalez Manglikmot. A federal judge in Seattle ruled that a Mexican immigrant with a work permit who is being held by immigration officials must be allowed to argue for his release from U.S. custody while court proceedings over his arrest move forward. According to a lawsuit he filed challenging his detention, Daniel Ramirez Medina, 23, who received permission to work in the United States under President Barack Obama's Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or the DACA program, was arrested last week at his father's home near Seattle by Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers. The lawsuit said he was brought to the United States illegally as a child and given a work permit during the Obama administration. ICE has alleged that Ramirez has gang ties and should be deported, but Ramirez's lawyers have filed court papers denying that he has any gang involvement or criminal record and saying he should not have been targeted for removal. Ramirez's lawyers have said this could be the first time under U.S. President Donald Trump that a person covered by DACA has been taken into immigration custody. At a hearing in federal court in Seattle, U.S. Magistrate Judge James Donahue declined to immediately release Ramirez, but told lawyers for the Justice Department that Ramirez should receive a prompt bail hearing before an administrative immigration court. Donahue also asked both sides to file briefs on whether Donahue has ultimate authority to hear Ramirez's legal challenge. The Justice Department argues the entire case should be heard in immigration court. DACA, established by Obama in 2012, allows those brought to the country while young to attend school and work. The program protects from deportation some 750,000 people who were brought to the United States illegally as children and are sometimes called dreamers in reference to the Development, Relief, and Education for Alien Minors, or DREAM, legislation that failed to pass. Outside the courthouse, Ramirez attorneys spoke to the media.
We really hope the government will come to its senses. There's no basis for detaining our client. It's outrageous, and we're hoping that the Justice Department will prevail upon ICE and others and let our client out.
At a news conference, President Trump promised that his administration would deal with DACA with heart. He said the issue was a tough one because while a majority of those benefiting from the program are absolutely incredible kids, others are gang members and they're drug dealers too. About 150 protesters assembled outside the Seattle Federal Courthouse on Friday in support of Ramirez's holding placards and chanting, "Free Daniel now." Ramirez did not appear in the courtroom. Protesters in the Mexican border town of Ciudad Juarez gathered next to the Olympic Stadium on Friday and held hands to protest President Donald Trump, who has famously pledged to build a wall on the United States southern border. The protest, called Union for the Nation, took place nearly a month after Trump was sworn into power as the 45th President of the United States. Chihuahua authorities, including State Governor Javier Corral and Cuauhtemoc Cardenas, a founder of the Party of the Democratic Revolution and former presidential candidate, attended the protest. Local media reported that hundreds of people turned out for the protest, including government workers and students from the local College of Bachelors, who carried flowers and colorful handkerchiefs as a sign of peace.
Reafirmar nuestro deseo, nuestro anhelo de ser comunidad binacional y que no permitiremos que nada ni nadie nos desuna, nos divida, nos infunda el temor. Amigas y amigos de esta fronteriza Ciudad Juárez, vamos a formar el muro humano como símbolo de la amistad, de la fraternidad, también con el pueblo de los Estados Unidos y en rechazo a la política hostil de Donald Trump.
The organizers said the protest is part of a movement that intends to create public responses to policies seen as oppressive, prejudiced, and unjust in border communities. Cardenas said the wall would never separate two friendly communities on both sides of the border.
Mantenemos firmes, buscando fortalecer nuestros valores, buscando esta unidad sea cada vez más fuerte y entendiendo que tenemos, como aquí se está demostrando, muchos amigos también del otro lado del río, del otro lado donde se pretende construir este muro que nunca va a separar a los pueblos amigos.
The wall has been a bone of contention between Trump and Mexico since the businessman launched his presidential campaign in June 2015, accusing Mexico of sending rapists and drug dealers across the border into the United States. President Trump has vowed to ditch the NAFTA trade deal with Mexico if he cannot renegotiate in the United States' favor, and has threatened to slap a hefty border tax on goods produced in Mexico, notably from its burgeoning automobile sector. Coming up, U.S. President Donald Trump reads from a statute that he says defends his immigration travel ban. U.S. Vice President Mike Pence meets with U2 frontman Bono in Munich, Germany. Plus, global in reach, the Iglesia Ni Cristo helps a New York Bronx neighborhood. Eagle News, Washington, D.C. will be right back. Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News, Washington, D.C. After a tumultuous opening month in the White House, President Donald Trump headed on to a friendlier, familiar, and potentially rejuvenating place, the campaign trail. Trump held a campaign rally in an airport hangar in Melbourne, Florida, just up the coast from his Mar-a-Lago resort, where he will spend the weekend. The event gave President Trump a chance to bypass what he says is an unfair media and take his message straight to his supporters. At one point, Trump also used the podium to defend his controversial travel ban that was blocked by U.S. appeals court judges, reading from a sheet of paper that he took from his coat pocket and which he said contained language from a statute that he said defends his executive order on immigration.
Every word of the statute is a total kill for the other side. So I thought I'd read it. And here's what it says. This is what it says. Whenever the president finds that the entry of any aliens or any class of aliens into the United States, okay, so essentially, whenever somebody comes into the United States, right? If it would be detrimental to the interests of the United States. Okay? Now, you know the countries we're talking about. And these were countries picked by Obama. They weren't even picked. They were picked by Obama. He may, so the president may, by proclamation, and for such period as he shall deem necessary. Now, because it's old, it should have said he or she, right? They were not politically correct when they drew. In fact, that's the only thing that was actually wrong with it. He or she. But I don't think the women care too much about that, right? I don't think so. So, and it goes, and for such period as he shall deem necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on the entry of aliens any restriction he may deem to be appropriate. So basically it says the president has the right to keep people out if he feels it's not in the best interest of our country, right?
President Trump has said he is considering issuing a new executive order banning citizens of certain countries traveling to the United States after his initial attempt to clamp down on immigration and refugees snarled to a halt amid political and judicial chaos. U.S. Vice President Mike Pence capped his day of meetings in Munich, Germany on Saturday with a surprise meeting with U2 frontman Bono. The two men spoke about the U.S. President's emergency plan for AIDS relief, a U.S. initiative to tackle the AIDS epidemic, according to an aide to the Vice President. Bono hailed Pence's role in advocating for PEPFAR on multiple occasions during his time in Congress. Pence was in Germany to attend the annual Munich Security Conference. In his first major foreign policy address for the Trump administration, he told European leaders that he spoke for Trump when he promised unwavering commitment to the NATO alliance. Global in reach, the Iglesia Ni Cristo helps a New York Bronx neighborhood. That's next. Eagle News, Washington, D.C. will be right back. Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News, Washington, D.C. The Iglesia Ni Cristo, in its mission to help impoverished cities in different countries, has extended its help to a Bronx neighborhood in New York City. EBC's Joy Ann Andres reports.
The name Morrisania is derived from the manor of Morrisania, a vast acre estate of the powerful and aristocratic Morris family. They, at one time, owned most of the Bronx as well as much of the state of New Jersey. Today, the Morrisania section of the Bronx consists of low-income households and is one of the most underserved neighborhoods in New York City.
So what I get like $700 and my rent is $600. So and working conditions, there's hardly any jobs around here. So that's about all I could tell you, honestly, you know.
Despite their living situation, many of the residents here remain hopeful.
The Iglesia Ni Cristo, Global in Reach, has a congregation here on Fulton Avenue. Today, families receive donations from some of the church's northeastern U.S. congregations.
We had a Ling Up, or Aid to Humanity. This church is not just inviting them to hear the words, but also trying to help them to supply some of their needs. A lot of families, not all, are really struggling economically, so we decided to have here in the Bronx.
This is a blessing for the people who don't have anything. All right? I'm very proud of the church for what they do for the community.
Outreach missions like this is not new to the church. Helping communities in Asia, Africa, Australia, the Middle East, and the United States is just one of the many reasons why the Iglesia Ni Cristo is becoming a household name. For Eagle News, I am Joy Ann Andres, and I am 1 with 25.
Thank you, Joy Ann. That is today's Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Join us again next time as we bring news that matters to you. Visit our website at eaglenews.ph. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/EagleNewsPH. I am Eliza Gonzalez Manglikmot. I am always 1 with 25.